Thank you very much. My name's Sean LaCornu. Thank you all very much for coming this evening. It's great to see so many producers from so many different regions. Just a quick apology from some of the people from the Yorke Peninsula who would like to have been here, but unfortunately they're dealing with some fires at the moment, and my heart goes out to them. I was actually just up in New South Wales at Forrester, and I actually got to see firsthand actually how devastating these fires are, and it freaked me out. It was incredible, and to their we popped into one of the supermarkets and spoke to some of the people there. They're like, "Oh yeah, there was just another fire." I was just like, "Wow." 30 trees 30 foot tall, burnt to a crisp, right next to another house. It was very scary. I'm the Managing Director of the SA Tasting Centre. I'm the 6th generation South Australian. My family came out here in 1854. My background is in retailing, advertising and marketing. I spent 20 years working for my family business, LaCornu Furniture. Many people here have bought furniture from LaCornu, so retailing's in my blood. It has been all my life, and I very much appreciated the opportunities that I got in working for my family. They went on and sold the business, but I'm now forging out my own niche in the marketplace, and I love this space, and that this is why we're having this event tonight. I then spent the last 8 years putting this speech together. This idea came about 8 years ago, and it was I never imagined that it would morph into what it has, and that it would inspire people to actually want to be a part of it. Obviously there is a niche there that we believe that can be filled, and I'm just glad that you guys are interested in being a part of it. I'd just also like to say that we acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional country for the Kaurna people of Adelaide Plains, and pay respect to the elders past and present. We recognise and respect their cultural heritage, belief and relationship with the land. I'd just like to get up on stage my wife Alyssa. She's been working hard with me on making this happen. In fact, as I will talk about in my speech, she was actually part of the inspiration. She was part of the problem, and she became part of the solution. And she really was a bit of a litmus test for what I think we need to have here in South Australia. Peter is our Chief Operations Officer. He's had 45 years in hospitality. He was a member of the ACC Central Market Advisory Committee, a member of the Australian Meat Association Council, and chair of the East End Coordination Group. Peter has held executive management roles with 2 of Australia's largest hospitality operations. He's the backbone. He's the guy that keeps me on the straight and narrow. He's the experience, and I'm very, very fortunate to have someone of his experience that also believes in what we're doing. I'd also like to thank our special guests for coming along tonight. The Honourable David Ridgway, MLC, Minister for Trade, Tourism and Investment. Thank you very much for coming along. The Honourable Zoe Bettison, MP, Shadow Minister for Trade, Tourism and Investment. Thank you. Mr Nick Bagakis, the Chairman of the Adelaide Central Markets. Thank you very much. I saw you somewhere there. Thank you. Mayor Ekery Vickery, Naracoorte Lucindale Council. The regional chairs and managers that were able to make it out here today, but most importantly, the producers. You guys really are what this is all about, and I do thank you. You guys are the early adopters. You're the people that have seen something in this, and I'm humbled. Thank you. Some housekeeping. You always got to have the housekeeping. Restrooms are located in the Dunstan Playhouse foyer, under the staircase and next to the Space Theatre bar. The security can direct guests if need be. In case of emergency, please listen to the AFC event supervisor and await their direction. Let's hope that doesn't happen. Please make sure to keep your name badges for the after-party event networking in order to receive a discount on some drinks. at the end of the day at the festival bar, which we'll be going to after here, for any of those that would like to continue on and have a bit more of an informal chat. If you lose your name badge, don't worry, we have a roll of stickers and I'm sure we'll be able to replace those for you. So, what is the SA Tasting Centre? The SA Tasting Centre is a retailer of exclusively South Australian products, mainly focused on the wine, beer, cider, spirits and food industries. Our primary effort is on building the three strategic pillars of our business model. First of all, the sale of SA produce in an Adelaide CBD location and online. The second is the promotion of our SA regions and driving tourism to them. This is not a one-way street. This is about promoting South Australia. And thirdly is facilitating business-to-business and trade opportunities for South Australian businesses, both domestically and internationally. And as our major speaker will a major sponsor will be letting you know, we have been making some inroads into that, and I'm very excited to continue that. Our aim is to be the world's largest retailer of exclusively South Australian beer, wine, spirits and food. To help raise the profile of South Australia on the international stage as a primary destination for trade, tourism and investment, and to better connect the city with our regional areas. The birth of the SA Tasting Centre started almost 10 years ago, although I really formulated it 8 years ago. I didn't realise that I was going to turn it into a business back then. And it actually happened when I met my wife, Alyssa, who is Canadian. And she was here on holidays for 2 weeks, seeing a friend, and she was 1 week into her trip. And I happened to ask her, had she been out to our wine regions? And she said, with a straight face, yes, she'd been out to our wine region, singular. At which point I asked her, great, where was it? And she said, the National Wine Centre. And I do appreciate what the Wine Centre has done for South Australia. This is not a criticism of the Wine Centre in any shape or form. This is about Alyssa's experience of her journey to South Australia and what that translated into when she left South Australia. And there's obviously a whole range of reasons for why she thought that that was the region and the only region. And that is a gap that we're looking to try and fill. We want to educate people. We want to showcase the fact that there is actually 12 regions. In fact, my friend here, Tim, he has been here many times. He flew down from Sydney to help support today, which I appreciate. Thanks, mate. And he had no idea that there were so many regions that we had here. And this is another person within Australia. So these are common things that people experience, and while we do try very hard to promote the regions, there is opportunity, I believe, for us to do more. So that's how the concept was born. So what are the challenges of being a South Australian producer? Well, I'm sure you guys could get up here and tell me thousands of them. I actually I've been out to all the regions. I've been to see many of your cellar doors or your shop fronts. And I've gone and asked the questions, and it's easy to make the product. The hard part is selling it. And I think many producers would agree with that. And for 10 years, I've run a digital advertising and marketing company, Slam Strategy. And our business is focused on promoting businesses and helping to generate business for them. And it's true. There are over 700 wine producers in South Australia alone. Some of them are far away, difficult to get to, off the main drag, perhaps don't get a lot of foot traffic. And add to that Australia is the 5th largest wine producer, and yet we're only 5% of the global production. So, just the wine industry alone, there's a lot of competition, but that's our advantage too, and I'll get more into that. So while South Australia is recognised internationally for fine food and wine, many smaller producers face serious logistical issues for brand exposure. And all of this makes it difficult for producers to grow their business, and it is exactly why the SA Tasting Centre is such an important addition to drive new business to South Australia. Currently, there is no CBD location that exclusively showcases South Australian produce from South Australian producers and connects those with tours out to the region. So, why should we have the Tasting Centre? Well, clearly there's interest. The event booked out in 14 days. We had to make extra tickets. I was worried whether or not we would have enough food. We are a start-up business, and having the numbers increasing and then looking at the budgets, you're like, okay, this is a good thing and this is great. And we have now 250 producer members with a signboard over here with all of the members who have registered their interest in being a part of the Tasting Centre. And it's an impressive list. Not because we have name brands that we all know, but because we have a lot of name brands that we don't. We have variety. And that's really important. That's what gives South Australia the spice. We cover wine, beer, spirits, honey, olives, olive oil, almonds, cheese, even icy poles. They're made from South Australian fruit juice. We have the attention of government that's here tonight, and thank you for coming along. We appreciate it. They're interested to find out more. They also believe that there is something here. And we're in talks already with national procurement officers and overseas buyers keen to talk to us about consolidated freight orders, because we make it simple. One shop, one stop, and they can buy their giant basket of goodies that they can then use to sell on or to provide to their staff. We have a letter of support from the Adelaide Convention Bureau, and I don't know how many of you know the Adelaide Convention Bureau well, but their job is to promote Adelaide and South Australia as a global business event destination. And in their letter, they've said the creation of such a unique offering as the SA Tasting Centre is something truly exciting for the City of Adelaide. And we will not only support South Australian businesses, and it will not only support South Australian businesses, but create jobs and enhance the experience of businesses delegated who visit the precinct. And that's great. They see the vision too. The Tasting Centre provides a perfect vehicle to assist South Australian Government with realising their tourism goals and employment targets. And this is about unifying two areas, private enterprise and government. There's opportunities for both to be able to support this. A July 2018 consumer research study commissioned by the South Australian Tourism Commission for an Adelaide CBD-based food and wine centre concept estimated that 6.5 million interstate and international visitors, it was based on 6.5 million interstate and international visitors, of which around 13%, or 700,000 people a year, would be interested in going along to a place where they could sample South Australian food and wine. South Australia is huge, and our regions are spread out across the state. The South Australian Tasting Centre allows us to showcase our state in a simple and concise way that is easy to get to and to understand. We want to break down the centre into the 12 producer regions, and we've called Adelaide one of those 12 regions. And the idea being is that all of the produce from that region will be found in that area. So when you come in to the centre or when you come onto our website, you know what type of experience you can have in that region, and that's designed to help to drive tourism. We created an economic impact statement that estimates that creating such a venue will help to indirectly drive an additional $40 million a year in revenue to the state through tourism and trade opportunities. In 2019-2020, they started in October with 80 cruise ships filled with 183,000 tourists, all keen to experience South Australia and what it has to offer. These are all opportunities that we can take greater advantage of. I've always been proud of the state and what it has to offer. Whenever I travel, I'm always telling people about the fantastic produce that we have and the amazing landscape. I always stuff my suitcase with products that I share with people from overseas. I get an absolute buzz when I see the look on their faces when their eyes light up when they try something from South Australia. And one comment that continues to make me laugh is that overseas people keep telling me how our tomatoes taste like real tomatoes. My father once told me, he said, "Son," he said, "there are only 3 ways to make more money in business, and if you are going to do it right, you need to be doing all 3. You need to increase your sales, you need to lower your costs, and you need to increase your margins." And the Tasting Centre wants to be a part of that with the producers to help them to achieve that. So let's talk about those 3. Firstly, increasing sales. Well, as a retail operation with an e-commerce platform, we're actively already in discussions with the local and overseas buyers wanting to work with us. Lowering costs, well, we have a free place to display producers' products in a cellar door experience combined with a tour booking system. There will be less sales and marketing pressure required to drive both sales and walk-in business to the producers' locations. We can be a shopfront for those producers that don't want to have their own shopfront, and for those that do, we're happy to support and promote those as part of our tourism initiative. And finally, increasing margins. A study done in the UK showed that a bottle of wine that's sold for £5, about 6% of that went back to the grower. However, a bottle of wine that sold for £20, about 35% of that went back to the grower. We're not focused on trying to sell bulk wine or bulk products, although, of course, we'd happily accept that. We're a retailer. We're trying to support all South Australian producers, and the opportunity that we see there really is in the consolidated freight orders, where you can have your giant picnic basket of products that you would like for your hotel chain, for your business. It's not about trying to generate the cheapest price. And finally, as part of the opening section, and after this we will take a short break, is that we will, for all of those members who have joined on board, we will now be rolling you over into our foundation membership now that we are live with our website. For those of you who are interested in gaining supplier status with us and working with us as in a wholesale capacity, please catch up with Alyssa. She will be, just pass her on your details, and we'll be getting in contact with you with the next steps. Some of you have already jumped on board with us. We'd hope to actually have some retailing happening on our website already. But for someone who doesn't do events all the time, I didn't realise quite how exhausting putting an event is together, and we will get there, let's put it that way. So for now, I will I will leave it at that, and we will be back in about 10 minutes' time, and we'll then just start with our guest speakers. So thank you very much.
So the reason I wanted to sponsor the SA Tasting Centre, the main reason being the concept that Sean has come up with. I think South Australia has a great asset in terms of its producers of food and wine, and Sean's trying to bring them together and showcase what a great asset SA has nationally and internationally.
The SA Tasting Centre provides an opportunity to bring together the best and finest of South Australian food and beverage culture and produce. To have a venue that facilitates the development of our regions, of our excellent food and beverage products, is a breath of fresh air to South Australia. It's a fantastic new product that Sean and his team have put together, and Gezellig Hospitality couldn't be prouder to be a part of it. So, as passionate South Australians, there is absolutely no reason why we wouldn't support this.
I wanted to sponsor the SA Tasting Centre to make sure all local producers had a platform to come to in Adelaide. Like the event today, it's been such a great success, and I look forward to any future events that occur in Adelaide, because there's no other platform that's offering what Sean is offering. There's the Wine Centre, which is offering wines, but nothing like producers for cheese, honey, stuff like that. It's bringing everyone together, which is a fantastic event.
Well, thanks, Sean, for that lovely, warm introduction, and it's always a pleasure to be here with people from the food and wine and beer, and I don't think we've got any gin or whiskey distillers here, but if you're here, so thank you, Zoe. And Nick Bagakis, who's the chair of the Central Market. Nick's had to go, unfortunately, but he did offer his best wishes to everybody. Erica Vickery is here. Now, I know Sean said she was the Mayor of the Naracoorte-Lucindale Council, which she is, but she's also here for the Limestone Coast Local Government Association, so it's great to see Erica here. And also thank you, Sean, for the opportunity to say a few words. And I always think it's a great thing to go out and support our South Australian producers. As most of you who know me know, I'm from regional South Australia, originally from a little town called Wolseley, which of course some of you wouldn't know, but it's the last town on the railway line in South Australia going to Victoria, and I farmed there, and our farm backed onto the border. So I've always been passionate South Australia, and used to sort of jokingly say on a bad day with the wind in the wrong direction, you could smell Victoria. So, I was always a bit rude about the Victorians. But it is important to support each other, and I think what Sean and his vision is about supporting our food and wine producers here. And we know that this sector is one of our really important sectors to growing our economy. Our exports in this sector, wine is now over 2 billion, or production's over 2 billion, and exports are pushing 2 billion. Our food sector ebbs and flows sometimes with the weather. Of course, we have droughts and tough seasons, but pretty much it is a part of our economy that the government, the Premier and the Cabinet really want to support. And so it has made some significant growth over the last few years. And of course, if you look at what we're trying to do as a new government, we're trying to grow a whole range of sectors, and we've sort of identified them, and we've looked over the last 2 decades, our share of population growth, our share of employment growth, our share of income has all been declining. So now's an opportunity to actually try and turn that around. And with the sort of initiative that these guys have got, I think that is an important part of the food and wine sector. And of course, as you know, we commissioned Stephen Joyce, the former Minister for Economic Development in New Zealand, to do a bit of a deep dive into how we engage with our interstate and overseas markets. And we're really taking some decisive action. It's not next March, will be 2 years since the election, and Zoe and her team will have an eye on the 2 years after that to then try and give us a hard time at the next election. So now's what we're really focusing on, how we can actually support all of our sectors, but in particular this particular sector. And so we've got an initiative called our Growth State, which is a plan to grow the South Australian economy. The Premier's set a very ambitious target of 3% growth. Which it is ambitious, there's no question of it, and certainly in sectors like this that are affected by drought and climatic conditions, that will ebb and flow. But it is a sector we think that we can continue to value add, and a lot of the producers that are here tonight of adding value to what we already do. I was having a chat to Sam Tucker at the back of the room. You know, that's a great little business that actually makes, you know, adds value, creates jobs. The last time at his factory, I can't remember how many people he had there, but you know, it's a really great little local business, and it's got a great opportunity to expand. And that's something we're really keen to do also, is to look for businesses that are established, that are really ready to take the next step and help us grow the South Australian economy, because it is there's a lot of people out there in the world hungry for premium food and wine, and we know that we produce it. We just recently knocked off Melbourne as the best food in Australia. We've always had the best wine, nobody could ever dispute that, but Melbourne, except with probably the big Greek and Italian population, always managed to knock us off. But just in the last about 6 or 7 months, the sort of national surveys have now established that Adelaide in South Australia has the best food and obviously the wine in our nation, which I think is particularly important. And we know from a tourism point of view, more and more people are coming to our state to enjoy the food and wine that we have here. And we're seeing great investments. I mean, Chester Osborne and the Cube, it's a bold investment down there, but that has actually really driven a lot more visitation to that part of the world. So yeah, we've got, you know, our 9 sectors of creative industries: defence, food and wine, health, high-tech, international education, minerals and energy, space and tourism. But tonight we're really just talking, and while they're all important, I think this initiative to try and showcase something in the city, I think is quite good. I mean, we still want the dispersal out into the regions, but one of the concepts, Sean, you spoke about was consolidation. And I know that's something that even some of the, Catherine Sayer and others from Food SA have talked to me about, the small producers. Somebody needs to take a bit of a lead to try and bring that together. So, you know, that I would encourage you to pursue that, because there's a big step from being a small producer selling locally, and I know, you know, you sell in South Australia, then you sell Victoria, interstate, the rest of the nation, maybe New Zealand as the next step, and then we've got great opportunities, but it is a big, that logistic step is quite important. So that's something I think that you should really focus on. So look, ladies and gentlemen, I could speak for a long time as a politician, but I don't reckon any of you got out of bed this morning saying, I can't wait to listen to that politician speak tonight. So I would just say we've got a wonderful opportunity with our food and wine sector. It is one of the 9 key sectors that we're going to focus on. Our growth state agenda will roll that out over the next 12 or 18 months, and food and wine and spirits and beer, and the Goodsons are here. I went and visited their brewery probably about 10 years ago, we think. So all of those sectors are really important to us. We want to encourage anybody and everybody that wants to promote it and help take our products to market. We want to encourage you all to go out and do that. So thanks, Sean, for the opportunity to say a few words tonight. I met Sean and Alyssa probably about the same time I went to Goodsons about 10 years ago. So I've been a little bit aware of this. It's fabulous that you're having a crack, and good on you, and all the best and on your journey.
Thank you, Mr. Ridgway. I think it was very nice. I appreciate all of that, and I think we're on the same page. That's great to see. Now I'd like to make special thanks to our major sponsor for tonight, which is Seaway. The Seaway Group commenced operations in 1999 and is still a privately owned and independent company employing over 320 staff, 20 locations across Australia, New Zealand and China. With a turnover in excess of 300 million in 2019, there can be no doubt that Seaway is one of the leading shipping and logistic companies in Australia, and I'm so proud to have these guys on board as a sponsor. They see the vision. I'd also obviously like to thank our other industry support sponsors, Orion Partners, thanks Tom, the guys, Finlayson's Lawyers, another Tom, thank you. Gesling Hospitality, I know I don't quite have say it with the right finesse there, but thank you. Quest Apartments for providing accommodation for those people travelling from regional areas, or those that just wanted to have a few drinks and not drive home. The Adelaide Festival Centre for hosting us, we much appreciate it, it's a great location. And finally, Slam Strategy for helping to put together the marketing material. Lee here helping with the event and doing all the videography for us. We will be putting together a video of tonight's evening, so that those who weren't able to attend and anyone who just wants to see themselves on the video, they'll be more than welcome to. You'll be able to find that on our website once we cut it up. So with that being said, I'd like to now introduce our second guest speaker, a major sponsor, Mr. Russell Curley from Seaway. Russell is the Executive General Manager of Seaway Group National Export Team. He started at Seaway in November 2008. Come up here. And has 22 years of experience across the industry in all forms of domestic and international logistics. Russell and I have been working closely on building a streamlined freight and logistics model for our producers that is world-class. I look forward to continuing these discussions as the Tasting Centre takes shape and being able to represent you guys. Thank you very much, and over to Russell.
Quite a pleasant little introduction. You took half of my speech anyway, so anyway, we'll get straight into it. Yeah, good evening all. Hope you're having a good evening. Yeah, as I said, Sean's done all the formalities, so I won't go into too many of that straight away, but yeah, I'd like to thank the SA Tasting Centre and Sean and his team for allowing us to be a sponsorship. We've obviously a very prestigious event, and I think it's going to really be quite an exciting time going forward. So, as been mentioned already, I'm the logistics guy. I work for a company called Seaway. This sort of speaking caper really isn't our thing. We don't get up in front of people too often. We just we ship stuff and move stuff and do logistics. So it's not really what we're about. But our industry probably isn't quite as sexy as what you guys are. We definitely don't have all of the bells and whistles and all the fun and the wine and everything else. So, but yeah, I feel though that exporters and companies just don't probably put enough emphasis on the logistics side of things. I know Mr. Ridgway was talking before about the getting everything right for the logistics, and we're not a tangible product. You can't touch us, you can't drink us, you can't eat us. It's actually a full 100% cost. So putting a margin on our business is very difficult. So it's actually a full cost to everyone here. So I think I'll get that out of the way, that it's actually going to cost you money to send this stuff overseas. But you can have the best product in the world, and I'm sure many in your room, and I've seen your products, I've looked at them, Sean showed me them, I've tasted them, I've ate them. Yes, they are very good. And you can have the best marketing team in the world. However, if you've got a location to get to and you don't get there on time and in the condition and the quality and the desire that you actually want that product to arrive, it's very hard to salvage a fallout of a disgruntled customer. It's very hard to salvage a reputation that's taken years and years and years to actually develop. So that reputation can sort of overnight can basically be railroaded very, very quickly if you don't get your logistics up correctly. Unfortunately, in our industry though, that happens a lot. We do see it, and customers do actually take the wrong options, and their whole reputation goes downhill very, very quickly. Globally, there is immense demand and opportunity on this worldwide food and beverage, as we've sort of established tonight. Products like yours we've already been speaking about, and Sean and his team have been able to bring in various overseas parties, so we've actually worked together quite closely to bring in a few different sort of traders, a few different people that we've worked with, and they're actually already talking about distributing your products to different regions and different areas overseas. So I think it's exciting times with all these good, clean, green sort of products overseas. So there is a lot of people out there that actually want the product. It's actually just putting it all together. So I think between putting a little tasting centre here and obviously with our products and our expertise, I think we can make this work. Seaway as a business has grown quite dramatically, I would say, over the last probably 4 to 6 years. And we're actually trying to be pushed to keep up with the supply and demand that you guys are actually working with. So as a holding group, we actually still are a privately owned Australian company. I'm actually quite proud of that. I'm actually thankfully a shareholder in that as well. So we've got facilities throughout Australia, New Zealand, Fiji, China, an international agency network all over the world. As Sean sort of mentioned, we've got just over 300 people. We move about 35, just giving you some numbers here. We move about 35,000 tonne of air freight a year, so that's about 70 tonne a day. So if you think about those aircraft, think about all those little silver boxes that you see getting put into the aircraft when you go on a flight. We're actually loading about 70 tonne, so you think what a tonne is. I think 70 tonne, that's a fair bit of air freight that actually around Australia we're moving domestically and internationally every day. and we move about 75,000 TEU, which is, for those of you not shipping jargon, that's about those 20-foot containers you see that get loaded onto ships. We move about 70 to 75,000 of them a year, both import and export into and out of Australia. So yeah, that's quite a large per annum sort of figure that we do. We are one of the larger players in the market. However, we are independent, and we are basically independent of all those major multinationals. So we don't try and become something that we're not. We actually still are quite happy that we're still Australian and privately owned. I'm not going to do a full sell job from up here, but 3 to 4 years ago, we took a pretty strategic direction with Seaway, and we knew that we thought we would know that the food and beverage sector was going to grow quite largely. So we actually invested in a lot of infrastructure in our facilities, and our loading facilities in most capital cities. We've pretty well got 3 or 4 new facilities around in Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, and we've also got some in Mildura, Toowoomba, Canberra, and it's allowed us a bit of a one-stop shop of what we can offer around Australia. But obviously we're not talking about what we're doing globally, we want to talk about what we're doing here in Australia. Our footprint across Australia for temperature-controlled cargoes and what we're actually doing in general freight is based around the major airports of Australia. So we basically can secure the transition from an exporter to an aircraft without having any other sort of involvement. So you actually, you've pretty well got us the whole way through. One of my predecessors, who's just recently retired, told me that if you can control the whole supply chain and you can sell that to your customer, it actually gets called the one arse to kick philosophy. So if something goes wrong, you can only come to me to actually get it right. So you don't actually have any third parties to actually involved, and that's what we want to do. We want to be the one arse to kick if something goes wrong, but hopefully that doesn't. Touch wood, it won't. So Adelaide Airport, that's probably my next step, and where we're actually talking about here and what Sean and his team are looking at. So we're lucky in Adelaide Airport to have the only quarantine and customs approved dedicated airside facility in South Australia. So we can receive, pack all cargo types, both for air, sea, transport, perishable, general freight. We can pretty well do it all from the one site. It allows facilities for temperature control, cargoes, packed, direct access straight onto terminals. We've actually got access pretty well from our back door straight out onto the tarmac. So you pretty well, as soon as you deliver to us, we can consolidate all of your product, every single one here. We can actually put it together, do the customs, do the clearance, do the quarantine, put it all together and actually load it, whether that's temperature controlled, whether it's general, and we can actually take it directly to the aircraft. So you know that you actually have got your product pretty well from your site to our site, straight to that aircraft. There's no in between. Others look at other things that they do, but we're actually on the site. So you may have seen, and I'm sure Mr. Resway is aware, that with the increased demand for the South Australian products globally, Adelaide Airport Limited has announced a new freight hub called Airport East. So that's at the end of the Richmond Road. What this allows is basically I know there's a lot of you from the Barossa and various regions, and we've talked about the Yorke Peninsula. We can actually take B-doubles all the way down South Road and directly into the end of Richmond Road. And that actually sort of vertically integrates all the landside logistics around South Australia and actually delivers it straight into our facility. So it's obviously a cost, basically working on the costs. So we've been a big instigator in this, and we've been pushing Adelaide Airport a lot. We've actually been losing a lot of freight across the border into Melbourne and Sydney and other areas because we actually haven't got the facilities to actually do that. So as an exporter, I urge you and Mr. Ridgway to keep pushing as hard as we can to get this facility up and running because we definitely need a bigger dedicated export freight hub. We've got a 10-year agreement that we've just signed with Adelaide Airport, I'm pleased to announce. Not many people know about that, but we've actually done that recently to actually build a joint facility with Adelaide Airport at Airport East. And we've actually hosted them in Melbourne only recently. And we've got a facility similar to that in Melbourne that we're actually going to build here in South Australia. Unfortunately, it's probably 2 to 3 years away, but yeah, I'm committed as a proud South Australian to actually get that up and running. I've been rambling on a bit, but in conclusion, I'd just like to commend obviously Sean and the SA Tasting Centre for this evening's launch and all the work done to putting in this initiative. I think it's a very, very good idea going forward and for the SA Tasting Centre. As I said, I'm a very proud South Australian, so I'm pleased to be in partnership with them and just to provide a platform and basically to facilitate bringing all of your amazing products to the world as best we can. So thank you and enjoy your evening.
All right, wow. Now, if that doesn't legitimise us, nothing does. They are a great organisation with a very streamlined product. They're out there and ambitiously trying to export products all over the world. So, the closing part of the speech, so that we can then move on to the festival centre to relax and have a few drinks and unwind for those that wish to. Obviously, as I'd said earlier, I'm humbled to have everybody here and to be able to present to you, and I thank you all for coming and taking time out of your busy schedules to be here and hear about what we're doing. I have been out to all of these regions and personally met many of you, as I said, and at first hand, I have seen the amazing produce and the regions. I am of less than the 1% that have been out to all of these areas. My mind is blown at the dedication and the infrastructure that goes on in out of these regions to create amazing experiences for people to go out there and remember them. It is beautiful. But more than that is that I've heard your stories and I've fallen in love with them, and that's part of what's amazing about what you guys do. And each and every one of these stories are unique and help to build an experience that adds to the taste of the products that I'm consuming, and it just makes it taste that little bit better. And when I go out and I tell somebody about the product, I tell them about that experience. I tell them about that story. And that's the marketing message that we want to be able to deliver at the Tasting Centre. We want to pass that on. We want to inspire people. I'm also very proud to be South Australian. I love this country and I love this state. It's clean, it's fresh, and it's free of the kind of pollution that inhabits the Northern Hemisphere from other producer regions. And add to that much of our rainfall in South Australia comes from the Antarctic Ocean, which is one of the most pristine waters in the world. No wonder the stuff tastes so good. Our produce is so impressive, it is world class. And we need to make a stronger connection with our producer regions if we're going to take full advantage of our internationally recognised status of fine produce and tourism. And I think we need to take a little bit of a leaf out of the French book of supply and demand marketing. France produces about 17%, and I mention wine, and it's not about the wine. We're not all about wine. However, they are a large portion of our produce. So I just want to use that to say that. France produces about 17% of the global wine, and they have secured brands like Burgundy, Champagne. They invented the term terroir as a way of describing the unique characteristics of their product in their regions in order to create demand to drive up prices. It's brilliant marketing. And it has educated the world about France as a leading wine producer, and they can charge for it accordingly. The SA Tasting Centre wants to help us with our marketing and also to increase demand for our products. And one day, we will be in a situation where we can demand produce to the world in the same way. So I think it's pretty clear that we could do more to promote our regions, and we could do more to support the variety of producers that we have in the industries. Because without our producers, we have no produce. And without any produce, we lose one of the biggest draw cards to our state. My motto has always been that we don't have to be the biggest, but we do need to be the best. And the SA Tasting Centre is about being a part of that. And I thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you.
And Sean got in contact with us and said that he was launching this exciting new business venture, and it was purely about Team SA and South Australian producers. It was a no-brainer to sponsor it. Finlayson's has a practice which has a very specific focus on not just the wine sector of South Australia, but farmers and producers in South Australia. We can trace our practice back 160 years in South Australia, and so to be even more aligned with South Australia with a project that just exclusively wants to showcase South Australian products was just such a good, pardon the pun, pairing that it was too good not to pass up. To be introduced with so much quality in the room today from the exporting markets and wine and food, we're just so excited to be here today to be able to meet and greet people, introduce people to what we do and how we're just as passionate as they are about the sector, albeit from a slightly more dry, less sexy legal perspective. It's good to keep your finger on the pulse as well, just about what people think about the industry, and that's why an event like this is just so good for us. It doesn't hurt as well. There's a bit of good quality food and wine involved as well.
Yeah, the reason why was that Seaway is a logistics provider, and we can see an opportunity to bring all of the South Australian produce to the rest of the world.
I think the night went really, really well. We still have some guests here that have, a large number of the guests here that have actually continued on after the formalities to continue the networking. The government had a lot of great words to say. Our sponsors had a lot of great words to say. And at the end of the day, the people here believe that there is an opportunity here. And that really is what we're trying to showcase, is that there is a gap in the market and that we want to fill that. And I really look forward to being able to represent the producers and being able to showcase South Australia to the world and to take it to the next level.